Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cut and Splice. This is Matt speaking, and as usual, I'm joined by Gil and Jason. This time around, we'll be discussing George Clooney's 2005 film Good Night and Good Luck, a film that followed the famous feud between journalist Edward R. Murrow and Senator Joseph McCarthy in the 1950s. It's an interesting portrait of the Red Scare and how America dealt with that problem. This is a film that's been pretty high on my list as influential and compelling and interesting, and also probably uh, definitely among my favorite live-action PG-rated movies. Yeah, just thought I'd toss it out to the guys and see what they think too.
This movie's rated PG?
Yeah.
Not even 13.
No, PG.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, if there's no curse words, I don't think there's anything. Is there any sexual? Even sexual stuff is kind of insinuated for the most part.
Well, they in regards to that aspect of it, they had the advantage of it being a story that almost entirely takes place in the workplace, and the only couple in the story are a couple that are hiding their relationship.
Yeah, I mean, you see them outside of the workplace, like at home. Which I always found that an interesting choice, like the perspective-wise. I was like, why did they get so much of, like, what's their position in the story? But then I guess it plays out more so later. But I guess we can get into that, especially in the second half with spoilers. But yeah, well, did we see this movie together at some point, or like back in 2005?
I did not see it in 2005. The first time I ever saw this was when we were all living together.
Yeah, so we saw it together, right, or something like.
Well, you guys might have seen it in theaters. I don't know. I saw it at home with you guys, obviously with the, in the living room and everything. So with the projector.
Oh, back at the house on the projector. This is like 2010 or so. Okay. Yeah. So it's probably like maybe we watched it in theaters and then we said, "Oh, you haven't seen it," and then we popped it in or something.
I can say for sure that the first time that I saw it, it was opening night, and I went alone. I don't even remember the theater that I went to go see it in. It was like a limited release, and I just kind of found one of the theaters in LA that was showing it, and just decided to drive over and go see it, like just stag. So
that's very individualistic and non-communistic of you.
Yeah, right.
But in any case, I wonder if I might have like seen it in the theaters with morale or something. But it's definitely one of those movies that I could see myself maybe skipping the theater. Like if, but normally if it had good reviews and I had time, I would have caught it. But I honestly don't remember. It's all like a blur. But I do remember like it making a very good impression. This time around, I was very impressed, especially because it's like a meme now. How long movies are now is how concise, to the point, and still pretty substantial in scope. This movie is, even though it's like a chamber drama of sorts. It's extremely cinematic. It's very enjoyable. There's not a single frame, except for some of the perspective stuff that I'll mention, but like there's not a single frame that's like unnecessary, I feel like. And it's I think we're missing that in today's cinema from time to time.
Yeah.
Like stuff's a little bit too loose right now. I don't know.
I agree.
In the age of streaming. Yeah, but I guess I'll get to it so we can move on to the next step. But I gave it like an 8 back then, and I would probably stick to that. I don't. Yeah.
I would give it a very solid, enthusiastic 8. Almost.
I might just bump it up to an 8.5 because it's funny every time I rewatch the film. Well, I mean that's the thing. I have rewatched the film several times, and it's just never gotten old for me. Um, and I mean it was a movie that kind of slapped me in the face with its quality and craft, and like as Gil, you already mentioned, just the fact that it is so tight. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a movie that upon rewatches, I haven't started to nitpick it or find more problems. I just tend to find more positive things to say about it. So, yeah.
One thing I will say that was interesting, we watched it, even though it was a short movie, we still had to split it to 2 nights. Mostly like we watched 1 hour one day and the last 30 minutes the second night. But the first night we watched it on the projector, which was the first time we used the projector in like 8 months, like since our baby was born, because it's been such a crazy period and we've been so lazy. We said like we have to do this, otherwise we'll never use it again because the TV is just way too convenient. And then the second night, because it was only 30 minutes, I was like, I'm not going to set up the projector for 30 minutes. Let's just watch it on the TV. And it's a really good looking movie. The black and white photography, the Robert Ellsworth and all that. I think it was nominated for an Oscar.
It was, yeah.
And then we switched to the TV, and I was like, wow, this looks really digital. and it was mainly because I watched the first hour on a 120-inch screen, and then I go down to like a 55-inch, and all of a sudden it's like, this is so sharp for film. I'm so surprised. But that's an interesting point, because back in the day, most people shot on film, so you didn't make it a point to blur out the image by shooting on film. Sometimes you do just want a very, very sharp, clear image. But that's the one note I would say is, like, now thinking about it, I kind of would have preferred it to be a slightly more dirty image, being that it's supposed to a degree mimic the style of the of the black and white TV and the newsreel shots, all that stuff from the time. Like not 1-to-1, but at least could have gotten a little bit dirtier image. But they weren't going for that. But
I mean, that is something to note, that they did actually shoot it on color film and remove the color in post. It was all the 500 tungsten Vision 2 films. For any listeners who don't know, we're now on Vision 3, and that's considerably sharper and less grainy. But the last black and white film stock that Kodak produced, at least in 35 millimeter, you can argue that they made something new for Oppenheimer, but it's the same emulsion, basically. I mean, basically hasn't changed since the early 1960s. So it's really grainy. But yeah, so I mean, they definitely did decide to go for less grain, more sharpness, more resolution than what would have been available just shooting on like the actual 52-22 black and white stock.
Now thinking about it, I think it would be a good pairing to do a double feature. Maybe the new Beverly can do this movie and The Man Who Wasn't There. Another movie that was shot on color film, turned into black and white, and there's a lot of smoking in it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, this might just go in the category and everything, but Good Night and Good Luck was the color was removed and everything in the digital intermediate, whereas The Man Who Wasn't There was actually done all photochemically. So that's a
they
kind of
printed it
difference
on like black and white film. Or?
Yeah, they actually, this is a little bit of a digression, but they actually used a black and white print film that is designed for titles because they couldn't get enough contrast. Just printing it directly onto black and white the print film, they actually used like an ultra high contrast black and white film that was really only designed to do like title cards and everything. And yeah, that's how they got enough contrast out of it. But
It's a good looking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I mean, overall, I would definitely recommend this movie. Not just necessarily to people that are into politics and stuff, but I think it's it's also very appropriate to the times. Like I feel like there's a bit of the whole TV being a new technology. It's kind of like the way social media and phones are nowadays, or at least for the last decade, have been maligned as like the new TV, like the new thing that's going to ruin this generation. And there's always growing pains, like how are you going to use this device, for good or for bad, type of thing. And I feel like it's very, very much of the time, even though it was made before the iPhone came out, so it didn't predict the new medium that was coming, but to me it feels very current. Like this should be in theaters, and it would totally not be about McCarthy. It would be about the cell phone, But yeah, because like me and my kids, I feel like my kids are very, very curious. They're at the age where like they ask all these questions, and I'm not gonna bullshit them like my dad did. Every single thing is like, let's look it up, and we look up things and we learn about the world. It's like, and that's what the phone is good for. And the other stuff is like, to subdue them and keep them calm when they're, when you want them to shut up for a few minutes, give them like a video. But it also could be used for good. So it's about finding the balance with technology, journalism, all these mediums that are supposed to be for the good of the public, but could be, misused, underused, or yeah. So I think it's all a very interesting subject. So I think everybody should see this movie, but I know most won't, because it's, for one thing, it's black and white, and then it's also political chamber drama, which is not everybody's cup of tea.
It's also a movie that's 98% talking heads.
Yeah, but I mean, people like dialogue. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but
it's not exactly.
I'm not trying to say that that's a bad thing. I'm trying to say that it's not for everybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, it is politics. Yeah, it's. I mean, much like what's in the movie itself, like the network tells them, like, they need to make money, and the stuff that sells is entertainment. And how and it's well known that news was essentially a loss. It was a PSA. It was a service that the networks were doing for the good of the public while they're making profit off of their entertainment products. But the news was never really what they made money on. That's why it's problematic nowadays, where they do try to make money on it, and it's all like very partisan, very like just everybody's preaching to their choirs. So yeah, it's also that. It's about like losing that aspect of it. There's a lot going on in this movie. So I think if you care about civilization, society, like there's so much here. But yes, I agree that this is a very adult movie. So maybe like someone in their teens can wait till their 20s to watch it. I don't know.
I think it's a movie that everybody should see. I just want to be clear that to anyone who's listening to this, that like, it's just, there are a lot of people out there who are going to watch 15 minutes of this and turn it off.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good choice, because it's an excellent movie, but it's just the way it goes for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's funny that it could be a movie like this, just like it could be a Tarkovsky or some foreign film that is just like, what the fuck is yeah. Which we'll get to that next time, apparently, if we're doing Stalker future.
Yeah. And I mean, it is kind of telling that, I mean, George Clooney needed to finance a lot of the movie himself. I mean, the movie, I think it had a budget of like $7.5 million.
Wow.
So
With this cast,
I think most of them worked for free. I mean, they worked like probably like minimum SAG wage.
scale.
Yeah, I
Scale.
mean Robert Downey Jr., Patricia Clarkson, Frank Langella, Jeff Daniels. I mean, probably the smallest name in the entire movie is the lead. And I mean, I know who David Strathairn is. I still can't pronounce his last name for sure, but I mean, I know that he's been around for a while and he was perfectly cast, but I mean, it is another one of those weird things where like you've got an all-star cast being led by somebody who's, dare I say, a bit more on the B-list side of things. But
yeah, but I think that's actually, it reminds me of like Oppenheimer. There's a few examples of these people that wouldn't necessarily do the lead, but sometimes if they're the right fit, they're the right face. Like they have acting chops. It's all about finding the right role. I mean, whoever's around them only makes them better. But he like steals the movie. I mean, there's no doubt. Like,
Yeah. I love David Strathairn.
I mean, he doesn't steal it. He owns it. Like stealing.
That's
would
the better
be
way of putting it.
If some side character, if some side character like was more like, But in any case, cool. Any other thoughts before spoilers?
Nope.
People should go see yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's getting close to 20 years after it came out, so celebrate it.
Yeah, it's like
finally put some more eyeballs on it.
Well, at this rate, it actually, by the time I post this episode, it'll probably be 20 years, like 2025. In any case, so going to spoilers. So one thing I'll start with, and then you can go on with your own thoughts. But yeah, just to get your response to like, did you have any thought when they were doing the scenes with the couple, with Patricia Clarkson and Robert Downey, like in their apartment and stuff, they're kind of talking about things because they're like low level, essentially researchers in the office there. I felt like it was a weird thing to focus on them. But then later I felt like as the movie progressed, it felt like, oh, they're doing it because, there's this whole workplace thing that's going to bubble up. So they establish their characters.
I didn't think about it at the time. I mean, now that you're kind of bringing it up, it's like, yeah, I gotta get what you're talking about. But, I don't think it really jumped out at me too much. But I mean, I do see what you're saying.
Which it's understandable because also the pacing was very solid. So it's not as if I needed to cut those scenes to get the movie under an hour and a half. Right. So I think it was mostly like it was an interesting shift in point of view that I didn't understand why we were doing it. But then to a degree, I think the point that they were trying to make there is just like McCarthy was looking for, people that might be communist and might be this and might be that. And in the slimmest of evidence, he would put people and embarrass them and do this whole sham hearings. Meanwhile, you have these two people that are at their workplace are essentially going behind the backs, doing something that's not allowed. And the way that the people in this liberal newsroom deal with it is like, listen, we can't let this go on, but we're not going to crucify you both like communists. Just decide who's not going to be here anymore, or like if you both want to leave, or like that, which is, I think, was some sort of like a subplot that was trying to illustrate like this is how you should handle civil society, like this is how you should handle like free speech, free thought. Is like people should be allowed to express their feelings, their thoughts. If you have concerns about communists taking over the U.S., then first of all, like, have better ideas and explain why it's a bad idea, but don't don't hound them this way, and because it's only going to breed more and more animosity. So I thought that maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know if
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think you're right that their part of the story is there to illustrate a sort of parallel in that sense. I just don't think that the ending is trying to say what you said. I think it's more like they're just trying to show that here's a story of two people who are kind of sneaking around and pretending to be something they're not, which parallels what's going on in the country. And then at the end, I don't think that was meant to, at least personally, I don't think that was meant to be, conveying anything along that, that metaphor there. I think it was just like, I just think that they were trying to say that at their place of work, everybody knew that there was a rule and they knew about them. The only reason they told them that one of them needed to go wasn't because they discovered it and wanted to be nice and civil about it. They just said one of them needs to go because we're forced right now to let a bunch of people go. So we're going to let one of you go because it just makes sense. It's going to make your lives easier. And it's, you two are married. So therefore one of you is still going to have an income while the other person's looking for another job, and so on and so forth. Like, they're just saying, out of a matter of practicality, one of you is going to be one of the many people we have to let go right now. We just want to be upfront and tell you why, and and also make it perfectly clear that there's no animosity and that they all knew what they were doing the whole time. They're only letting them go because they're being forced to.
Yeah, no, I accept that, but I do think that sooner or later they would have done something about it. They used this as an opportunity, the whole cuts thing, and he could have also made up the thing about the cuts in order to split them up. Because the reason why he did that is obviously he needs it not to continue, because the more people know, the more the rule becomes disrespected, or maybe other people break it, and that's why. Yeah, they needed in the most civil way to just break it up.
Nip it in the butt.
Yeah. But in any case, I was gonna say something else about that. The I forgot, but Matt, you go. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, the real names of the actual characters that Robert Downey Jr. and Patricia Clarkson were playing are escaping me right now, but it is kind of funny that during that scene where Jeff Daniels is telling them, like, it'll make it easier if one of you just quits and everything like that, I immediately interpreted the banter between Robert Downey Jr. and Patricia Clarkson as being sarcastic, in that this is the 1950s, of course the man is going to keep his job. It turned out that Robert Downey Jr.'s character did actually decide, that conversation happened, and Robert Downey Jr.'s character did, the real person obviously did actually decide to quit his job.
Oh wow.
And it actually makes more sense, because it will be easier in the 1950s for him to get a job than her.
Probably.
Right. And he actually went back to CBS after they changed their policy. By
the way, his name was Joe and her name was Shirley.
Yeah, Joe and Shirley.
Yeah. Worsh Buzz.
Yeah.
Worsh Buzz.
Yeah.
I remember what I was gonna say, like, quickly. Just on that subplot, because I feel like there was a motif that was going through the movie about, like, people representing themselves not who they are, because they have to hide certain identities or aspects of their personality. There's the interview with Liberace.
Yeah,
and he's asking him about the whole thing of when are you gonna settle down and get married. Is like, so it's very much like he's gay. They just didn't want to.
I don't want to sound too like cynical, but I just feel like if this movie was made today, even by competent people, I just feel like they would not have been so subtle with that joke. And I think that's why that scene is so good and why it's so funny, because you're sitting there watching Liberace and you're just like, that's funny. I feel like someone that, like, the filmmakers would have just done something obvious to be like, haha, guess what, everyone, he's actually gay, kind of thing.
Oh, like they would actually, because not everybody would know Liberace was gay.
Well, I think people probably, for the most part, still remember that about him. I just think that, I don't know. I feel like we're at a time right now in cinema where subtlety is like going away in a really bad way. And I don't know. I'm just being real negative. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But I mean, you are right that moment with Murrow just having that little aha, kind of moment, like this little subtle reaction of Liberace talking about settling down with a woman and everything like that. Like, everybody knows, but it's all conveyed in that little whatever. It's just that little moment that he had. It was, that's one of my favorite moments of levity in the movie. And by the way, that's another positive for this film, is the fact that, again, it is that short. It is only 90 minutes, and it's about a really important part of American history, and there are still those moments of levity. You still get the jokes in every so often.
There's definitely humor in it, for sure.
I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but like, not in a laugh out loud way, just in like, I'm smiling in appreciation sort of way. Like, when I watch this movie, the period accurate depiction of them all being complete chain smokers is just funny. Like, I know they're not doing it to be funny, but I find it funny. I'm just like, jeez. Like, I mean, he's doing the whole thing where, like, other comedy movies have made fun of this in the past. Even like that episode of Friends where Phoebe is like a stock trader or something like that. But the idea that, like, that, not that anyone would care that David Strathairn is actually smoking on television, but just probably for just like practical reasons, or even just to look professional or something. He's not toking on the cigarette while the camera's on him, but he's got it just off camera. And as George Clooney, in all those tense moments where they're about to go live and they're about to go on the air, he's doing all that really awesome procedural stuff where he's like counting down, and then he silently says the last word letter, or the last numbers, and then he taps him on the leg or something. Like, all those little things that make the movie so interesting. One of the parts of their procedure is him taking his last big drag and then putting the cigarette down next to him just off camera. And then the moment they're like, they do something with the camera, it's quiet, nobody's saying anything, and Clooney goes, and we're out. Grabs that cigarette and just like goes, just like, again, it's not meant to, they're not doing it for yucks. But it's so great to see how things have changed. It's just so funny,
It's crazy. The what I was always wondered about the smoking is that nowadays there's a whole thing with cigars. Like, men like to smoke cigars, but they never inhale. They only like puff the smoke out just to be cool and stuff, or maybe slightly the flavor.
Well, you get a little something out of it.
Not a lot, because a lot of people say they never take to their lungs, which is the whole point of smoking, but it's just not very healthy, especially cigars are even worse.
I'm pretty sure you get a little something, even if you're just puffing on it.
A little something, especially if you're not a smoker, for sure. There's a slight buzz, but especially if you drink with it, I'm sure it's the same effect. But in any case, the point is, I don't know why that generation, because basically a whole generation, including my mom, it's like apropos, it's like essentially kill themselves prematurely because they smoked, like they chain smoked most of their lives. You would think if only they just, because the reason why most people smoke is because of the cool factor. That's why most people start smoking. And if only they could not take to their lungs and just do it as some oral fixation, maybe they wouldn't get lung cancer, like Bill Hicks did and many famous smokers.
I don't feel equipped to comment on that other than to say that I think people just appreciate nicotine.
Yeah, it's an addiction. There's no doubt that it's an addiction. I just wonder, and I guess cigars is a different thing because it's definitely a once in a while type of thing, so it doesn't have the same effect as cigarettes. But yeah, it is amazing
Not
how
if
the
you're
culture.
Churchill.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, generally it's amazing to see how the culture changed. Like nowadays in a movie, you can't even imagine. Like the only movies where people smoke in the movie are period pieces.
Yeah.
You know, where from that period where people smoked, and you just have to have them smoke because otherwise it's just not authentic. Because like every time you see them on camera, they have a cigarette in their hands.
I thought that you see that people smoked a lot in like in the movie. I always remembered as a kid thinking, geez, there's a lot of smoking in this. Is like Lethal Weapon and stuff like that, you know, but this is nothing compared to this. This is like straight up Mad Men.
Oh, that's like Mel Gibson's stressor.
Yeah.
In that movie, I think.
Yeah.
On the point of humor, though, the joke that always actually did get me to kind of bust up laughing in this movie was when Murrow is talking about actually how they're going to finance, how they're going to like repay the network for letting them run the McCarthy story, and you know how he's going to split it with Fred Friendly, and you know he's just not going to have any Christmas presents for his kids this year, and Jeff Daniels is just like,
oh,
he's a Jew. Well, don't tell him that, he loves Christmas.
Yeah. I kind of laughed a little bit at that.
Yeah, well, it's definitely got very situational humor.
Yeah,
movie.
But,
especially for someone that's as serious as Edward R. Murrow was.
Yeah. Actually, you know, not to circle back like really hard on this, but you know, so much of the Robert Downey Jr. Patricia Clarkson story was really in their first actual scene that was like with them isolated, and I mean that was a really serious plot point where Robert Downey Jr. brings in that you know agreement that he has to sign. Yeah. And like you have this whole thing about you know this is basically an ideological audit, and you know he's actually saying like Murrow has already signed this, Friendly has already signed this, all these people have already signed this, all my bosses have already signed this. Like if you don't sign this, are you going to be a liability, or are you going to be a target? If I don't sign it, if I don't sign it, they'll fire me. I mean, that was actually kind of a really pivotal expositional moment in the movie, where it is just kind of clear that they're not going. And well, I mean, obviously, so much of the movie is about the Milo Radulovich case, and you know about the government going after maids and going after these random people, but it did kind of set a tone like within the room of I mean McCarthy wasn't just going after the Edward R. Murrows of the world. He wasn't going after the CEOs. He wasn't going after the faces of the networks. He was going after everybody. And I think that really did kind of set a tone right there in that scene, in that conversation, whispering to each other about like, I mean, I either need to, pledge this ideology or I get fired. So, um, I mean, it makes sense that their story. It always made sense to me that their story played out the way that it did, especially the way that it started in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see in the credits, the cast, like I didn't realize, but Tom McCarthy was.
I was going to bring him up too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess he was
really
part of the dudes in The Office, right?
Yeah, he's one of the smaller characters. Yeah,
the researchers.
Yeah, he was the one who actually recused himself because because he actually attended communist meetings with the girl that he was dating or something like that.
Or she did. He didn't, or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
I find it so interesting that it's like clearly this movie had a big impact on him because he went from this to like, and I'm not trying to say this was his idea or anything. He was just an actor in it, but like, but then like after this, he was one of the biggest characters in the newsroom in like season 5 of The Wire, which is like the whole season is about the effect of the news and how it plays into, you know, how the media and the news plays into the whole drug war and everything like that. It's like, it's all about the newsroom, and he's like the biggest character in that aspect of the story for that one season. And then following all those two, I think there was even another movie he did that had something to do with the news or something like that. And then of course made Spotlight.
Oh, okay. So you were leading to Spotlight.
Yeah. No, I just mean to say that, like, as an actor, he did like all these things, and then eventually like won an Oscar, rightfully so, for a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he did The Station Agent before this movie.
He did. Spotlight was his 5th movie.
Yeah. No, I know Spotlight was later, but it's interesting that this is between The Station Agent and The Visitor. He made this movie.
Oh, I know, and it's also interesting because it's like he directed Patricia Clarkson before they acted together.
Oh yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, there's another guy that was very familiar, Matt Ross. I'm trying to think where I saw him before.
Matt Ross?
Yeah.
Oh well, he was in American Psycho, I think.
Oh, American Psycho, yeah,
sure.
And yeah, he also directed Captain Fantastic, which was a good movie.
Did he really? A great movie.
Yeah, that movie ripped my heart out.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it was a fantastic movie, but it was mostly good.
I think he had good ideas behind it, despite the fact that some of the characters in it didn't have the best of ideas. I guess he was also in The Aviator. He's got a face that works for, like, you know, period pieces from a while back.
Yeah, and wasn't he like? I think he might have been. No, I guess not. Yeah, mostly TV and stuff early on.
Yeah.
Cool. No, because he almost looks. He reminds me like a comedian from like a sketch show, but I think he's just he looks like it, but he's not. Yeah. In any case, I think he's just he looks like someone from that sketch show, but he's not it. In any case, yeah, he's got a familiar face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that this movie doesn't get credited properly as like one of 3 movies or 4 movies, depending on your opinions and how you look at it and such, but like as one of the movies that was like the comeback for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he was pretty young here, so it was soon after his whole drama.
Yeah, I mean, well, like the 90s is when he was like, you know, when he was suffering, or let's say coked out of his mind.
Because he did Chaplin, right? And he was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
And when was that?
That Chaplin was I just saw his thing. Hold on a minute.
1992. Wow. Yeah. So he
Yeah.
was super young when he did
Yeah,
that.
he was really young in that. But if you look throughout like the 90s, you know, he had all these movies where he was like kind of the hot thing. You know, Natural Born Killers, of course, was a big one. I really dislike the movie Shortcuts, but I definitely always remember that he was in it. Uh, but and then I always remember I like him a lot in U.S. Marshals, but like all of that stuff throughout the 90s there was when he was constantly in and out of the news for all the stuff that he was doing off camera, obviously. And then, you know, did some TV and stuff like that. But then like if you look at like the early 2000s, it's like kind of some not so great movies and not really well known stuff. And then all of a sudden, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Good Night, Good Luck, and some also not so great movies. And then I think A Scanner Darkly is pretty cool. I don't ever feel the need to rewatch it, but it's pretty cool. And then did Zodiac and Iron Man.
Yeah, I think Zodiac was big. That was before Iron Man. Like at least it's like as far as like a prestige type of like lead.
For sure.
Or yeah, because I feel like Good Night, Good Luck. He was kind of like just dipping his feet back in type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I
Like,
mean, I just feel like it's crazy that like more people don't know about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang because that's a lead. He's like the lead of that incredible movie, and you know, it's just that it wasn't successful or popular financially. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I give it an 8. It's crazy, but I guess it had a good impression.
It's a
Scanning Darkly too. I give it an 8.
It's a 9.
Yeah,
Okay, so I guess it was yeah.
actually,
That's right.
actually,
I'm surprised I give Zodiac an 8 because Zodiac might be my favorite Fincher movie. But
I need to rewatch
yeah, that's
it.
a good one. Actually, like while we're talking about the cast, you know, when I brought up that this was rated PG, you know, there was a little bit of a surprise, and you know, we were going through sex and all that stuff. And Ray Wise,
oh yeah, I was gonna mention him.
and like the whole portrayal of suicide
Yes.
in the film, that was pretty heavy for a PG.
Yes.
That's a good point. I don't know why it's PG. Maybe it's insinuated. You don't see him doing it.
It's not. Yeah, you don't see it. That's probably why they were able to keep it, because that's one of those things that if they showed it, it would probably. I think, you know, the MPAA is like so cryptic with all their garbage, but you do hear them say that, like depiction of serious matters or something like that. You know, of something like suicide.
I mean, you see him sticking his head into an oven.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's not sticking. He's just turning it on.
But you also don't. Yeah. I mean, you see him like kneeling down or something, but like you don't see his lifeless limbs sticking out of it or anything like that. It's not like the end of Virgin Suicides or anything.
Right.
Also, what like under 13-year-old is gonna like last this movie? At least some serious 12, 11-year-old.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that actually two kind of interesting things. Like apparently George Clooney was saying that about 20% of the test audience didn't even know who Joseph McCarthy was, which is kind of a horrifying thing when it comes to Americans' understanding of history.
I mean, I would believe that now. I would almost expect that now. But 20 years ago?
No, that reminds me, like, go ahead, Matt. Finish it.
But also, like, it is kind of funny that a lot of some of the negative reactions that they got from the test screenings was that the actor playing McCarthy was too over the top. And of course, that was actually just McCarthy. Like they just used footage of McCarthy. It wasn't an actor.
That's funny.
Who said what?
So people in the test screening complained that the person who was playing McCarthy, the senator, were like, they were upset because they were like, that guy's just like going too far. It's too much. He's overacting. It's like he's too crazy or whatever.
Oh, and he was that's like
It's like real footage, right?
Yeah, obviously, which is gonna be very clear. It's very blur. It's much blurrier than the movie, which is maybe the reason why they shot it so cleanly. But I guess that didn't help people get the hint. Yeah, oftentimes real life is way more over the top than the movies. But I was gonna say one thought about the whole like not knowing about famous people from history. I saw this thing. That's what I like. I love Bill Maher so much, even though he's stupid sometimes. But on his podcast, he had Bobby Lee, that comedian.
Yeah, that guy's funny.
And he's like, Bobby Lee starts this whole thing about like, I was at the barbershop the other day, and I don't know how it came up, but like it's like maybe it was like maybe it was a Bob Dylan song or something came up on the radio or something, and then people said like, who's Bob Dylan? And then he went on and asked like everybody at the barbershop, and nobody knew who Bob Dylan was. And he was flabbergasted. He was like, how? There's no way. Like, come on. Like, how do you not know Bob Dylan? Like, even if you haven't listened to a single song of his, everybody knows who Bob Dylan is. And then literally, and then of course, Bill Maher affirms him because he knows Bob Dylan. It's like, yeah, this generation, they don't know anything. They're stupid. They don't look into the past because all they care about is like what's in the present, and they're not curious about history and blah blah blah. A minute and a half later, Bobby uses a second example. It's like it's like someone saying like that they don't know who Kurosawa is, and Bill's like, who's Kurosawa?
No,
and it was like Bill. Seven Samurai?
Was he serious?
And then Bill, it's literally a minute before he makes fun of the generation of not looking back into the past. It's like, listen, I don't like it when people are like, just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean that I should have heard of it. If I should have heard of it, I would have heard of it by now. So you literally see this what's the word?
Double
Cognitive
standard.
Dissonance. Yeah, and just like the fact that you made one argument a minute ago of how people are not being curious. And I get it. Kurosawa is more esoteric than Bob Dylan in those
for a guy in the industry.
Exactly.
I understand that he's only done like a handful of movies, but still.
No, I mean, you should at least know that like Kurosawa, Bergman, and Fellini existed. I think they're like the three biggest names in foreign directors. Yeah, but in any case, and I'm on Bill's side as far as like, maybe you should know Bob Dylan before but it's just the fact that he didn't connect the two and said like, you know what?
Yeah.
The Bob Dylan thing, I understand. The Kurosawa thing, maybe I should know him, but I'm not. But Bill Maher, as much as I love him, he is extremely biased to his point of view. He's like Cartman. It's like how Cartman flips on the gingers and stuff in the ginger episode. It's like, when it's my point of view, you're the stupid one. But if you flip the script on me, then I'll play this and I'll say like why being stupid is the right thing to do. It's like, so it's just, and I just find that like fascinating. But as far as like McCarthy, also that's a political figure, and not everybody knows about the that history.
Yeah, I feel like if you, at least if you're our age, even if you don't know the details, you should have heard of McCarthyism and stuff like that. You should be at least vaguely aware of the history of like his connection to the Cold War, Red Scare, communism, all those connections. Like there should be like a vague understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I think people should at least know that there was a witch hunt for communists in the 50s, and that there was a guy called McCarthy that had something to do with it. Yeah, that's like the basics that you should know as far as like American history. And I'm sure I didn't know this when I was growing up in Israel, but I think within the first year of moving here, I probably came across that information.
Yeah, well, you grew up on the other side of the world, so.
Right.
And I might have heard of it back then as well. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was maybe the because there was the Arthur Miller play,
The Crucible.
the Crucible, which was essentially an analogy, like it was playing off of the McCarthy thing, but relating it to the witch trials and stuff. So and even then, like when I saw that movie, I read up on it and I heard that like that was the intention of that play, because it was he wrote at the time of the McCarthy.
And the funny thing is, this is one thing that you've already alluded to, Gil, about how you can draw parallels from what Murrow was saying about this instrument can teach, but I mean, if it's just for passing the time, it's just lights and sounds in a box and everything like that. Toward the end of the film, that it is relevant to today, and iPhones and everything like that. It's all about how you use it. But I mean, when you look at films like Good Night and Good Luck and plays like The Crucible, I mean, I actually had this discussion when we were in development on a failed project for several reasons. Dealing with prohibition and trying to draw that as draw that as like a parallel story to say the war on drugs and everything like that. In a lot of ways, historical dramas are just kind of a mirror image of science fiction in terms of storytelling. I mean, why go back in time and tell the story about this dude who was in a position of power and threatening people for thought crimes, like bringing people up on charges, bringing people before Congress, grilling these people because they've associated with the wrong people, questioning their loyalty and everything like that. You do these historical dramas for the same reason that you do science fiction, for the same reason that, Orwell writes 1984, for the same reason that Huxley writes Brave New World. It's the same reason. And I mean, the reason pretty clearly is that, Picasso was right in saying that art is a lie that forces us to see the truth. I mean, if you just make a movie that's about an issue right now, it's too on the nose. Like you're just preaching. Yeah, it's usually a problem. But I mean, both history and science fiction, looking to the future and looking at the past, are great ways to make points about the present.
To illustrate.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I was gonna say before I forget, if we close soon, but I did really appreciate aside from just the cinematography looking great and all that, is it's a very kinetic movie, especially for a chamber drama. There's a lot of movement and shift in focus, like rack focuses, and this is George Clooney. This is not Spielberg. So if George Clooney can do this, I think people need to pick up their game. I don't see enough cinematic, I don't know what's the word, technique like this nowadays. Like, and there's in some, but yeah.
And kind of alluding to, Jason was talking about the smoking and everything, but that's something that you can actually look at and that's your insert right there. That's
Yeah. Yeah, no,
because it,
and the backlit smoke and the this, all the details, and like he said, the tapping, the like all
right.
that stuff. It's just very well thought out. So it's definitely a
Well, I
solid
feel
movie.
like you almost need it, right? I mean, if you're gonna make a movie that takes place almost entirely in a newsroom, you better really get down to the nitty gritty of what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think I just
Yeah.
remember what I was about to say is about what Matt said is that I do wonder what was Clooney's motivation in making this movie, because the only thing I can think of is at the time is maybe the Bush administration to a degree. Maybe there was a bit of like,
Mm.
they were going to Iraq and Afghanistan, and there was this whole thing of like, you have to fall in line, you can't have a different opinion because we're gonna fuck up the terrorist all thing. Like how Bill Maher got fired because he said something inappropriate about 9/11. So maybe there was this notion of like, you have to be on Team America back then. I don't know, because back 2005,
Very
all I
possible.
cared about is film school and stuff. I didn't care about U.S. politics, but I wonder if part of what motivated him to revisit this time in history is because of the uniformity in which everybody felt, the country should be united around, killing all the terrorists.
I mean, it does
whatever.
make sense because they probably filmed this in 04.
Yeah, and the war started what 02 like or something.
03.
03. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
the invasion of Iraq was 03.
I see. Yeah, no,
Before that was Afghanistan.
but it is interesting what motivates people to visit certain.
Yeah. I was gonna say, there's not that many to choose from, so it's a pretty easy thing to make a list about. But
the George
I was gonna
Clooney.
say very recently, actually, one of the reasons I was happy to do this movie was because I think it might have been because I rewatched Spotlight a few years ago, maybe like 2 years ago or something like that. But for whatever reason, I got on this kind of kick about like movies that were about news, about like the importance of the news and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a dozen other things in life that could have got me started on that. I'm not sure really, but and because of that, I think just about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I watched State of Play, which I think is a really excellent and very underrated movie.
It's a very good movie.
I think I'm not entirely sure, but I think Matt might have been the one that suggested I watch that. Not a couple months ago. That would have been the second time I saw it, but many years ago when it first came out, I think Matt was the one who told me like you need to see this movie, and I was kind of like, what? I don't know, but yeah, it's a real good one. But I was just gonna say, like in terms of movies that are more or less about news and about the importance of the news, I really feel like it's like on a short list. It's like those three movies. I know that movie The Post came out a few years back, although I think all three of these that I just mentioned are better than that.
Which
All the President's Men.
wait, yeah, All the President's Men might have to take the crown there. I'm trying to think if there's another one.
I need to watch it.
I guess Network isn't Network about
Network
news?
is, I think, yeah.
Network might be neck to neck with All the President's Men. Yeah.
I quickly did a Google search right when we started this thing, and there was a bunch of suggestions that I didn't really feel like belonged on the list, like specifically because they're about the aspect of the news that I talked about, like about the importance of the news and especially investigative journalism and things like that. But like they said, The Insider, which I know Al Pacino's character is like a news guy, I think, but I mean, I feel like The Insider to me is more of a courtroom movie. It's like less of a news movie.
It's about a whistleblower more than
it's more of a whistleblower type thing. They also suggested Frost Nixon, which is a great movie, but I think that's more about the power of interviewing, and particularly the television, which is a form of media, of course, and in adjacent to news, but I don't really think it's the same thing as all the stuff we just listed.
Yeah, Yeah, I thought you were gonna like talk about like as far as Clooney's directorial
Oh,
movies
shit,
is
I forgot
definitely the
about
best
that.
one.
I
Um,
forgot all about his movies. Let me
Yeah.
look.
I think the only ones I've seen is Good Night and Good Luck. I saw Leatherheads just because I was curious about the
Was it good?
early.
I wanted to see that one.
It was, it's enjoyable. What's his face is in it? John Krasinski.
Mhm.
Um, it's enjoyable, but it's not great. But I was mostly curious about the early history of American football and stuff. So
Yeah, I
Mhm.
didn't see Boys in the Boat. That was the one that just came out last year. Oh, did he do this movie? Oh shoot. He made a movie called The Tender Bar, and I started watching it, and I was really into it.
it's with
For
Ben Affleck, right?
uh, yes, I think I'm pretty sure he's in it. Yeah, I started watching it, and I was really into it, and something happened, and I had to leave. Like something in because I was watching it at home. It's like I think it was on Prime or something like that. And I very much enjoyed what I saw, but after about 45 minutes, I had to leave my house and do something that was going on. And for some reason, I have just not come back to it, but I really want to finish that one. Um, and then I saw The Monuments Men, which is a, a, a movie that should have been amazing, but it just has a real problem with its tone.
Hmm.
Um, I
I'm
saw Ides
stuck
of
on
March. It was
Item March.
okay.
I have the Midnight Sky
Predictable.
on my watch list on Netflix because I think it's a Netflix movie, but I just years now that I haven't like made the plunge.
I don't even think I've heard of The Midnight Sky.
It's like a sci-fi movie. I
What?
used it a couple of times while setting up my projector at the new place just to check the sound because I was looking for a sci-fi movie, but
Whoa.
I never sat down and watched the whole movie. So
Aiello and Felicity Jones are both in this. I got to
okay,
see
that's what I'm
this.
watching. um, yeah, but definitely, I guess Good Night, Good Luck probably takes it.
Yeah, probably. I would say it's the best movie of his that I've seen. So, I don't know about you guys. I don't want to sound like I'm talking trash here or anything, but this movie for the 2006 Oscar year is, in my opinion, an absolute snub. Um, or not a snub because it was nominated, but I defend Crash a lot because back in 2006 when I started film school and you guys were there as well. I remember many people saying that was definitely not the movie that should have won, and everyone had their opinion of what should have won, and I was defending Crash a lot. I still defend Crash. I think it's better than people give it credit for, but it should not have won. Good Night and Good Luck was the best movie of those 5 movies.
It was the year that Martin McDonough won for Six Shooter.
Yes, that's true. That definitely should have won out of the. Um,
I
out of,
wasn't crazy about it, but
wait,
fine.
oh,
I
that's
like
the same year.
Cashback.
Actually, Cashback should have won. Although Six Shooter's very good,
It's
but
not bad. Yeah.
Cashback should have won. But if Cashback had won, would we have gotten In Bruges?
Exactly. No, I think he did it just for the writing. The writing was just very good in Six Shooter.
Yeah. Now I don't know about you guys. I do think if there's anything that Capote deserved, it was for Philip Seymour Hoffman to win over
Yeah.
David Strathairn. Although he was great and everything,
Mhm.
but that was just a difficult year. I mean, you got all these powerhouse performances. And I was gonna say I hadn't thought about it too much, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it, especially after I agreed with what Gil said earlier. It's not flashy, but I would say it probably should have won Best Director too.
I'm talking about Good Night and Good Luck, or
Yeah, it was up against Capote, Crash, Munich, and Brokeback Mountain. I guess Brokeback was one of the things about it that was good was its directing, but I don't know.
it's a very sensitive movie. Yeah, I mean, I think what won for cinematography?
Cinematography was I just had that one on here. Oh, Memoirs of a Geisha.
Yeah, you see, I mean, like,
Brokeback probably should have won for cinematography. If it was going to win for anything, it should have been that.
no, I mean, I think Good Night and Good Luck could have gotten that one. Memories of a Geisha, give it design, give it costumes, but I don't think it would.
It did win for art direction, by the way, which it probably should.
But I think they could have because if you're not gonna give Clooney for directing, because obviously he's up against like, Spielberg and Ang Lee, but at least give the cinematography. But it's okay, it's fine.
You know what? I understand why Ang Lee won Best Director, because prior to this movie he'd done The Hulk, which was disastrous. And so all these people were like, gosh, that Crouching Tiger guy was so good. And then he did this horrible, like, cartoon Hulk movie. And then all of a sudden he does this like heartfelt, movie with incredible, scenic stuff and, love story and everything. It's like, I can see the time,
And then he did your favorite movie, Life of Pi. Which I still haven't seen.
I was about to make a Chris Pratt joke, but I restrained myself. I'm not going to do it. Not going to say it. Not going to say it.
In any case,
not going to say it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to say, since we've talked so positively about this movie, I just wanted to be very clear about one last thing, and that is that this movie is, in my opinion, a great example of like a movie with ideals, ideas behind it, particularly like libertarian ideas. Because I mean,
that's why Matt suggested it.
So clear is that like communism is one of the worst things that has ever existed on this planet. But
it's not one of the worst
this is a
things,
movie,
but it's
definitely one of
a
the
complicated philosophy.
Communism, all bad. All bad. It's horrible. It's
no, actually, I think Marx is misunderstood, but
no,
that's okay.
It's all bad. But all I'm trying to say is
he hated Jews as much as Hitler did.
Yeah, but I'm saying he was well intended, but he didn't.
If intentions are all we're
so
going on,
Hitler.
Yeah,
he was still evil.
Anyway, all I'm saying is that despite the fact that what's being portrayed in this film is McCarthy doggedly going after communism, which his intentions obviously were very good, but this is a perfect movie to illustrate how even if you're going after something as evil as communism, you can't slip into tyranny yourself in doing so. I mean, this is a whole movie like talking about and diving deep into the fact that this guy, this senator, basically just started ignoring people's civil liberties and just, taking the law into his own hands and like just ran with it. And it's awesome to think that there's a complicated story to tell here about how important it is that that even if you're going after something awful, that you do it the right way, that you're not, being evil yourself.
And it was a nice moment when he was like reprimanded by that more senior congressman.
It feels good.
I actually would push back a little bit on what you said, Jason. I don't think that McCarthy was well-intentioned. I don't think that he. I think that he saw. Just like most politicians, like we saw with COVID, something that scares people, and a way to gain notoriety and interest and gain support by attacking that thing that people are afraid of and showing up as the strongest, as being anti this thing.
Yeah, you're saying he was like power hungry, basically.
Right. But I mean, there is a little bit of nuance lost in this film in that McCarthy wasn't entirely wrong.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say is that even if you were being what I was going for, because for the record, I agree with what you just said about McCarthy. I'm just trying to say that giving him the benefit of the doubt, like
Right.
which nobody should do really, but I'm just saying hypothetically, even if his intentions were perfect and awesome and completely good and everything, it's still about the actions. It's still about the methods. It's still about how horrible all of this was.
Right, correct. I mean, and by the way, to clarify to anybody, I'm not saying that I'm saying that he wasn't entirely wrong about, communist infiltration of, like, American institutions. I mean, like, he was not entirely wrong about that. That happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of
Surprise,
movies.
and I mean, it's not entirely wrong. There was American infiltration of Soviet institutions. Like,
right.
I'm not. But of course, McCarthy was entirely ethically wrong about his methodology, and if you if you're even towing the line, and again, I'm saying this as somebody who has read Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto, and somehow I didn't become a communist. But yeah, I mean, McCarthyism in the 1950s, especially if they had, Instagram or Facebook or anything like that nowadays, I would have been a target. The way that McCarthy was operating. I mean, no, well, I've already gotten back. I mean, geez, I had a massive. I mean, my Facebook Messenger got blown up the moment that I said that I was reading Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier. I mean, really? I mean, I didn't even say that I agreed with it. I just said that I was reading it, and people were freaking out.
Yeah. Well, don't post that you're reading Mein Kampf, because.
Right. Yeah. But I have read it, and somehow I didn't become a Nazi. In fact, I'm probably a Jew supremacist.
It's like Penn and Teller always say, like, if you want to make someone an unbeliever, just have them read the Bible.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, if anything, the movie's probably becoming more relevant now that, like, we came within an inch of having a disinformation governance board. The fact that, I mean, we are dealing with censorship. The fact that we are dealing with people who are trying to get around the First Amendment and collude with government to government colluding with corporations to stifle what we're saying. This is a problem, and I mean, it's the great thing about, if there's one lesson, there are a lot of lessons to learn from Good Night and Good Luck. But if there's one that I want people to take away, it's that the relationship between the media and the government should be adversarial.
Yeah,
it should always be adversarial. And I mean,
but it kind of is. That's the thing. It kind of is now, but in the wrong way, because it's adversarial depending on which side of the spectrum the specific media is on. And that's not a good thing. The media should be impartial, and it should be critical of both. That's what the Post was trying to say a bit, is that there's these moments of realization that I think Tom Hanks has, or Meryl Streep, when they talk about, like, all the things that they would have done if only they weren't as chummy with 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 the Democrats or whatever, like whatever party that they were like aligned with to a degree or another. So they kind of have like a come to Jesus moment that like, yeah, there is this problem like in media, even back then when the times of the Post, that ultimately if you're like a leftist, you're gonna take it easy on a leftist government, and if you're like a right-wing media, then you're gonna be very like lenient with like a right-wing government, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. And that's what Good Night and Good Luck is. He said like, listen, like he says, like I'm not a communist. I mean, but I have my own opinions, I have my own politics. But really, what matters here is like what Matt says. It's the way you go about this. It's the not having evidence. It's the not having the support. It's the persecuting people who are innocent people. And these are not. This is like cancel culture. And this is cancel culture before it existed. And
it's assuming guilt before innocence.
Just the whole witch trial thing. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, again, like when I say adversarial, I mean, like I'm using that word in the context of like, our criminal justice system, in that it should be adversarial. But I mean, again, ideally, the way that it's supposed to work is that the prosecutor is just the finder of truth, and the defense lawyer is the guy who's just trying to find the best outcome for his or her client. Right. That's still an adversarial process. The media are supposed to be the finder of truth, and that is necessarily adversarial to any state institution.
I mean, it could be adversarial. Sometimes if the institution is truthful, then maybe there'll be less stuff to dig up.
There should always be times where when after an exhaustive investigation they go, gosh, look at how great this thing was that they did, and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's kind of like the exception to the rule, really.
Especially now, for sure.
But I would argue that it's still adversarial if you again, the finder of fact just prods a lot, and still comes to the conclusion, oh well, it turns out that you were telling the truth. Oh, it turns out that you were right. I mean, that's still adversarial.
But you see, but nowadays, the way I feel about the news or politics in general, I'll only believe criticism on the left if it comes from a leftist, and I'll only accept criticism of the right if it comes from a right-wing person. I will not accept the other way around, because the other way around is the obvious, and that's actually something that came up in this movie that I found that interesting. Is they mentioned at some point that the most trusted personality in the U.S. at the time was Milton Berle, the comedian, and then you see the thread like to today. I don't know if Milton Berle had a lot of politics in his comedy, and maybe that's why like the most trusted. But there was the whole thing where Jon Stewart for a period of time was the most trusted personality in the heyday of like the Daily Show, and now it's Bill Maher. And so you have these comedians that are dealing with politics, even if they're dealing in an entertaining sense, not in a journalistic sense, but people trust them more because Jon Stewart on certain things gave the left a lot of shit, especially the 9/11 stuff, and with the first responders, and like Bill Maher is more so, I would say, than Jon Stewart is less so on the left. Like he's more so he's on the left, but he's way more willing to criticize them than Jon Stewart does, because like Jon Stewart is still a team player in most of his politics. It's just that he has like these small issues here and there that he disagrees with the Democrats. So he's still slightly independent, but he's not nearly as independent as Bill Maher. Bill Maher is to the bone, is without a team. He's like, I'm team me, and I don't give a fuck if what I say hurts my team. And that's the way I think every single TV personality should be. And I think it's only about 1 to 2% of it.
Yeah.
I think 98% of TV personalities, they have their team. They're gonna root for the team. They're gonna avoid saying certain things that might hurt their agenda or
They're
their
going to
team.
avoid saying anything that would hurt the agenda.
Yeah, and it's a very dark time that we're living in, like, because it does feel like in some way it is very, what's the word, like sensorial, like as far as like people don't want to even say out loud that they might not agree with one aspect, because you know what happens if I don't agree with one aspect of like what the left, like Diana wants to kill me. Like we have like crazy political arguments and we're both on the left, but still it's because I'm a bit more independent minded, meaning if there's like a specific thing that bothers me, I'm gonna bring it up. I'm not gonna hide it. And it becomes like a whole thing, you know? So, and that's at home, let alone like if you're someone broadcasting it to millions of people. That's why people just like, no, I'm just gonna be with my team. But that's why I feel like people like Bill Maher, like I mean, you know, like Murrow was, and maybe there's a few journalists that are still independent minded, but maybe they're not as much. I mean, you know, the Andrew Sullivans, and there's a few of these like right wing too that are not towing the Republican line, you know, that you can still sort of trust their thoughts. But overall, it's just a wasteland right now. It's very unfortunate.
So true.
I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, if you're going to tell the truth, make people laugh, otherwise they'll kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Maher seemed to be in that category, and also Bill Maher never went full Jon Stewart and, you know, just, you know, put up a supply and demand chart backward to make a bullshit economics point.
Yeah, no, he's
At least to
definitely
my
team
knowledge.
left, like Jon Stewart, but he's not nearly like the way, like for example, like just as a comparison, Colbert, especially once he like left the because he was genius when he was doing his show that was like making fun of a right wing pundit.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like he didn't show all his lefty cards. But as soon as he got out of that character, and he had like this platform of this bigger show, I just feel like he became so uninteresting because he is like it's and not as funny as he used to be. Like I'm not gonna sit for
funny on the Daily Show.
Yeah, and like and now it's like I'll have to watch like a whole thing, and the funniest thing would be stuff that we'll improvise in the middle of a segment. But I'm like, I almost feel like Colbert lied to us all these years. It's like I almost feel like Colbert is like almost George Lucas or someone that like he's got like this really great talent to make people laugh and do crazy satirical stuff. And then all of a sudden he decided to like do this nightly show that is not funny at all. He's barely even like, you know, gets a giggle out of me. And I'm like, where's that guy? I feel like I've been cheated all those years. Where'd that guy disappear? You know, and then
Actually,
the politics is even worse, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that one of the few clips from his you know, nightly show that I'm aware of that did get a laugh was an unintended laugh where he had a correspondent from CNN.
Oh, I saw that.
And
that was so
he
funny.
he just said, so like, you guys are fair and unbiased, and the audience just laughed at that immediately. because we all know. We all know.
That's why it was a good moment when when Jon Stewart like came as a guest to comment about the COVID stuff. And it was
that was amazing.
Yeah. And Colbert didn't know what to do with him. I don't think Stewart prepped him for it. But it's like,
no, I don't.
You mean that the lab in Wuhan for like coronaviruses, you know, it's not possible that there might be a coronavirus from the Wuhan lab for.
When I saw that, I was like, because that had come after such a long period of time where like I hadn't really seen Jon Stewart do anything for a while, because he was already off the Daily Show at that point and everything. You know, when he did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how funny Jon Stewart is. It's like, this guy is like something
And
else.
you know, he's the funniest, like when he's like really like telling it like it is, not when he's towing some sort of line. I'm telling you, maybe the last thing I would say. But like Jon Stewart, like I love him. I really like his humor. But in recent years, I've listened to his podcast because I didn't have Apple TV, so I had it like for a month, and I watched a couple episodes of his show that was on there before he left that and went back to the Daily Show. And I've watched some of the Daily Show recently, but I've mostly been listening to his podcast, and you literally see how the younger writers on his team that are doing the podcast with him are chastising him whenever he says something that is not completely 100% with the team left. It's like every
On
time
his
he has a podcast that he does with his writers. At least he did it when he was with the Apple Show. Now he does another version of it with the Daily Show writers room. But he basically brings a couple of writers, and then they banter and they say funny stuff, and they talk about a subject that they researched on the show, and they bring an interview or two. That way, even if you don't watch the Daily Show, you can listen to the podcast, and it's topical stuff. But especially when he did the Apple Show, you would see like he's like in his 60s now. I don't know how old he is, and you see these like 20-some-year-old writers. They're just starting out, and he would say something on point about a political issue that's like maybe slightly more centrist, whether it's like abortion, like transgenderism, whatever topic you want. And they would chastise him like whoa, John, get the program. Like, what are you talking about? You're a bigot. you're like old school. Like they're basically telling him like, no, don't go there. Like that's not a good argument. And it's just sad because they're much further to the left than he is, and he's trying to be this independent-minded something, and he's the boss. He hires them, but meanwhile they're shutting him up and telling him that he's not on point. I don't know. It's just I feel sad for this generation of writers,
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's the inmates running the asylum in so many ways.
Exactly. Like people that come in and they already think they can run the place and they can tell the boss like how to think,
Right. And I mean, it's something that I've been saying for a long time. It's just like you can be the smartest person in the world. You could have an IQ of like 270 or whatever. I don't care. You don't gain wisdom until you grew up a little bit and experienced life. Like you don't, you're not wise yet. You can be smart. Believe me. I mean, I can acknowledge that you're a smart person when you're 19 or 21 or whatever, but you're not wise yet. Wisdom is gained only through experience. Wisdom is only gained by living in the world, experiencing it, and probably realizing that you're not as smart as you thought you were.
Like the Churchill quote, about the like if you're not on the left when you're young, you have no heart, and if you're not on the right when you're old, you have no brain, something like that.
Right.
Pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, I just usually like to say, it's great to be open-minded. Just don't be open-minded to the point that your brain falls out. But yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where, and I mean, again, alluding to the movie, I mean, it's not like, Edward R. Murrow was a perfect human being or anything like that, but I mean, it is kind of an illustration of a time in history when not only did people trust the news more, but the news gave us reasons to trust them more.
Mm.
Like, yeah,